Good day, everybody. I'm Richard Fink, a lawyer specializing in workers' compensation. Today is the Workers' Side Legal Podcast dealing with the Workers' Compensation Act. I have with us today Harry Gosling, who's a senior executive in the WSIB union for the workers who work there, and Paul Taylor, who I'll introduce in a second, and Pamela Hughes Ford, legal assistant at our law firm. Paul, where the heck are you and who are you?
Yeah, who am I? I often wonder that question myself. I'm a licensed paralegal by the Law Society of Ontario, and right now I'm just driving with my daughter because she had to have an appointment and she needed somebody to go with her. So that's that. And the topic today with Harry Gosling, who's the president of the union for the WSIB, is about the WSIB's advertising of the rebates, spending monies that were meant for injured workers. And Pamela's here with us today to talk about administrative issues as well.
So, Harry, what's your take on this spending for advertising?
Well, I guess simply put, I think it's a waste of money. I think the advertising I understand is we're in around 850,000 at this point, spilling over from 2025 to 2026, and that money is to I understand from WSIB is supposed to help people understand what the organization is here to do. I would argue that the citizens in Ontario that are covered by WSIB understand that the organization is there to help you if you become injured or ill or suffer an occupational disease in the course of your employment, and to cover your wage losses, to provide the medical services you need and help you get back to work, and get recover to the best way, to the highest degree possible. I think people understand that that's what the system is here to do. I'm not sure that we need to spend money that's being the organization is fully funded by employers in Ontario. I'm not sure that the money they're putting into the system needs to go into advertising. It's not like we're trying to encourage or in competition with other providers out there. We're not. Either you're covered or you're not. And if you are covered, it's not that you have a choice of compensation services you can go to. Right? We're here to serve you should you become injured or ill. So it seems like an odd way to use the funding that comes into the system to advertise what we do. It drives me nuts when the organization refers to injured workers as clients, or sorry, customers. They're
And
not
when you were on,
customers.
yeah, and when you were on before, Harry, I remember you were talking about you were concerned, which concerns me more, in the amount of training that the WSIB staff get. You said it had dramatically cut, and I think that concerns me in the sense of, because if the WSIB has this money, and what you were talking about, the $800,000, that's just recently. I know
Right.
I pulled a Freedom of Information for June of 2022 during the election that the WSIB was advertising, and it was coincidental what they were saying was what Doug Ford was saying. So to me, in my opinion, it was very coincidental for the political campaign. It seemed to me that the WSIB is taking a political position. So I'm concerned about that. But then I'm also concerned in the sense of this money is not only being wasted on a political campaign, that then we're hearing from the president of the union for the WSIB staff that they're not getting proper training. And it's not like the WSIB can say as well, we don't have the money, because clearly they have the money to waste on this advertising.
What happened with the training? I remember from our last podcast, they were going to start something after January.
Yeah,
Just
so
what?
when, as you may recall, we went on our first ever strike, and we were into our seventh week. Major issue is workload. Part of that is adequate resourcing, and part of it is appropriate training. So training had been scaled back a number of years. I'm happy to report that it is actually being improved and has increased. It's increased significantly with brand new programs that'll help case managers that move from one work stream to another. So that is all happening now. Those training programs are rolling out, and there will be some more coming. So that's been one of the positive things that came out of the strike and this new workload committee that we've been able to form. And there's additional hiring coming,
That was
which is
my
also
next
very
question.
positive.
So what percentage do you think they're going to increase their workforce by, approximately?
Well, they have been affecting quite a number of jobs since we've been back. So we've had a number of jobs that were made redundant. In particular, our document management reps, where the work was outsourced to an American company, Iron Mountain. And as a result, we had our first ever layoff. Um, there's been a union in the workplace
Harry,
since
hang on a second.
1974.
Harry, hang on a second. You're telling me that in this middle of this elbows up campaign that Doug Ford's all about with Donald Trump, an agency of his government is outsourcing work to the U.S. companies?
Yeah, I would say Doug Ford
Uh,
is elbows down. Um, and that I spoke with him about this, and I spoke with Minister Pacini, um, and both of them's initial reaction was, "Oh, we'll look into this. We're going to do something about this," and then they do nothing but support the outsourcing of the work, and they argue that Iron Mountain has had operations in Canada for 25 years. I don't care. They have operations in Canada. I don't, they are an American company where the profits go back to their head office in Boston, Massachusetts. This should never have happened. And there's problems with the outsourcing and the retrieval of files, losing of files. And as I said, sadly, we've experienced our first ever layoff.
yeah, what about privacy issues with injured worker files?
The files are kept in Canada in whether they're hard copy files or virtual files. My understanding is they are kept in Canada.
So what are they outsourcing? Do you know? Like what is the work?
It's like any of the archive files that we have. So the organization has been around for a while, so we have quite a number of files that are not imaged. So they'll be, storing those in a safe facility. But when it comes to retrieval, there's delays in the retrieval and sometimes difficulty in finding the file.
So it's
So
Ontario
it's
work going to the US.
the profits for sure go to the U.S. company. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
no.
it's an impact to workers, right? The turnaround time is not the same as it was when it was done in-house.
I
Yeah,
have
I
a
mean,
question for you that's been plaguing me for a few years. It's not super important, but it's kind of bizarre, which is typically we're getting letters dated February the 3rd and they come on the 16th. So, and they're coming by email on the 16th, so we can't blame the post office. What am I looking at there?
Yeah, that one I don't have a line of sight on. Maybe a system problem.
Is it possible that the letter is done by the case manager on the 3rd, but it waits a week or two for approval before it goes out from their manager?
They do like a bi-weekly or every 2 weeks it's kind of a solo summary follow-up with their manager, but I don't think that would be causing any delays in getting decision letters out.
I wonder if Pam has any insight.
I know in a couple of instances where I have called the board to follow up with stuff that I was told was in the works and was basically told by a manager that, oh, the case manager drafted it. So it has one date, but it actually wasn't finalized until 2 weeks later because they got pulled to do something else on a priority.
And this finalization is that they're having discussions with their managers about the letter.
It's either that or they forgot about it, and then I'm calling to say, where's the decision letter? Because I was told that it was going to be faxed to me within a couple of days. It's now been 2 weeks, and then the manager calls the case manager, and it's like a oops, didn't get around to that, got pulled to do something else, and I forgot about it. So I've heard both instances.
Here's the second trivial question, which is Ford ordered everyone back to work. So is the board's main location now in London, Ontario?
Well, I mean, it's the official head office, and it is open, and the return to work mandate applies to all of the WSIB workforce as well.
So
But
have they all gone back to work and have some of them had to relocate to London?
yeah, it's a process where the previous mandate that the organization was given to was to wind down their commercial real estate holdings. So the organization did that, and other ministries and agencies had similar mandates. WSIB implemented faster than others. So they've reduced their real estate footprint, and now they're having to reestablish that footprint. So that's happening as we speak, and it's a major major issue in the organization, trying to secure the real estate that people it gets that they can find locations that are safe, suitable, transit accessible, and they're competing with other government agencies, corporations, and some municipalities. So it's hard to implement this whole new mandate as quickly as the government wants.
I had a client or a potential client call me. They worked for the government of Ontario. They were working remotely for some 4 years. Then they got married in between all this and had a kid in Thunder Bay. Meanwhile, their original place of work might have been like Mississauga. So the government was telling them, leave Thunder Bay, leave your husband who works in Thunder Bay, and come back to Mississauga and work at our office. And I was told this has been subject to a large union grievance. Does WSIB have any of that?
Um, Not, I mean, there will be the odd cases. When we're working with the employer on this one, we're trying to see if there's are possible to find locations in the areas where most people reside. So taking a look at the postal codes of the employees. The organization has had a recruitment process that fit the remote workplace model. So when they were under the mandate to downsize their commercial footprint, the organization was doing job postings that were open to anybody, regardless of where your current location, current working office might be. And you would be able to be, let's say you worked in Sudbury, but the job that was posted was in Ottawa. You secured the job in Ottawa, but you continued to perform it remotely from Sudbury, from your home office. So now with the switch from the government, um, it's what do you do in that scenario? We're working with the organization to say, like, let's minimize the impact as much as we possibly can so that the work can be where that person is residing at the office that is closest to them.
What about WSIB appeals? And you probably don't know about the WSIB. Like, I know Doug Ford ordered all workers back to work, but the tribunals and boards that I deal with, and I don't know about you, Richard and Pam, if you've heard anything, they've all told me, no, it's still remote. And I know at the LTB, the Landlord Tenant Board, there's huge fights because a lot of individuals don't have, if you can believe it, don't have a cell phone or a computer or anything. So they're having difficulty attending these hearings. I mean, I know everybody's like, that's impossible, but no, there is people that do. So, in that situation, is the WSIB moving to in-person hearings?
I think they'll continue to try and deliver both, like in person or virtual hearings as well. Because the organization, one of the reasons I think why they've done some of the move to virtual platform is to help reduce costs, right? And not so the people that are going through that process, going through those hearings, are not having to pay for their own travel and accommodations, that kind of thing.
I had one further question, which is a little more controversial, which is we have a number of cases now where the case manager will write a letter saying we're not paying for any more physio, or we don't agree with the restrictions noted by the family doctor, which if they went to one of the multidiscipline hospitals like Toronto Western and they had a medical opinion supporting the case manager's view, I can understand what they're doing. But I see the case managers now making decisions regarding treatment and restrictions without medical, as if they are now medical adjudicators. Am I just seeing an odd example, or is this something regular, and why?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard conversations that some decisions are made based on usual healing times. So that might be a factor. It's hard to comment on what's happening with individual cases. Like it could be, a variety of medical findings. But we have as a union, we are launching a new campaign, and we'll be getting it off the ground very soon. And it's really about justice for workers. So one of those things, if you're talking about usual healing times or the need for additional coverage for treatment, we say we need to get back to the Meredith principles. So compensation for as long as the injury lasts. That should be the basic tenet of the organization, and we need to get this organization back to what it was here to do, which is to be focused on helping injured workers,
It's
not
funny you mention
refunds to employers.
It's funny you mention that, Harry, because I know the Ontario Network of Injured Workers Group, and I think Richard's going to be there, and so am I in April. The Ontario legislature is going to be reading a bill, and it's called the Meredith Act. It was written by a former lawyer, Kendall, who, in my opinion, it should be named after him because he did all the work and he worked very hard on it. So it'd be nice if your union would be interested in helping endorse it and get the word out too, if possible.
This is the draft legislation that the
Yeah,
NDP is tabling, right?
yes,
Yeah,
that's correct.
I've been consulted by the NDP party reached out to me. I was consulted on the legislation, made a fair number of recommendations and amendments, which I
Amazing.
understand which have been
Thank you.
adopted.
Yeah, that would be great.
I have this question. For the first time this year, I've seen the case managers adopting the medical opinions of physiotherapists. So going back forever, uh, physiotherapists, if they said, we need another 3 sessions, that might hold some weight with the case manager. But now I see the physiotherapist doing work restrictions and outlining that the worker should be healed in 2 months. And I'd never seen them follow physiotherapists. They used to follow the board doctors who were GPs and take them over the orthopedic doctors who were treating the workers. That I saw. But I see the case managers ignoring the family doctors, going with the physiotherapist instead. I mean, is this sort of a directive or is this rogue case managers?
Yeah, and it's like something I don't have line of sight on. Couldn't really comment on that.
Well,
All
what
right.
about like I've noticed too is like as Richard was saying when I was injured way back, when I had the permanent injury, they sent me to the what do they call it? Regional Valuation Center, and then the board would have consultants, doctors, and then they did away with that. And then they would use nurse case. Like it seems to me that the board is trying to cut costs with reducing the use of healthcare professionals. You know what I mean? Like in-house staff. Have you noticed that, or do you have anything on that?
Sorry, yeah, I don't really have the some of the internal things you might be observing. Um, I don't know if you have a forum with the organization or to bring those issues forward, and if not, then I could help try to find an appropriate contact person for you.
There used to be a number of board doctors who would say help in the NELs, come up with restrictions, disabilities. In other words, the board would ask its in-house doctor staff for opinions on medical issues as they arose.
Mm.
Has that disappeared? Have the board doesn't have doctors on its staff?
They have very few. It used to be a fair number of them. I think they have, less than six.
And is the board now sending people less often to the assessment centers like Toronto Western and Mount Sinai, etc.?
Not that I've seen. From what I
Alton Health.
understand, like the overall healthcare spend uh, continues to go up year over year.
All right, Pam, have you got anything?
The only other question I had is in terms of hiring staff, like what does that look like in terms of are they hiring more staff at all levels? Because I think that the major problem that I'm facing on the administrative side is just the backlog of case managers not taking care of requests.
Yeah. Yeah, for the case managers, there will be significant hiring happening, and that's underway now. And that will have a spin-off. You can't just hire a group of case managers and think that that's going to kind of deal with the whole thing. Like they're going to have to hire additional nurse consultants to support the case managers, a number of specialist return to work that will be assigned to, 6, 7, or 8 case managers for each one of them. And then with our, call center, customer service reps, there's going to be some hiring coming up in a couple of months. And we've been pushing for a resourcing model in that area to mirror the resourcing model in our employer services center. So what we heard during bargaining from our members is that on the employer side, if they were on the calls, the wait times were very, very short. Usually like 3 minutes would be at the high end in the day, and that they would resource to meet the peak call times. Whereas with the customer service reps, we were repeatedly hearing about wait times of like 10, 20, and even 30 minutes at times. So we've been saying that you need to resource for the peak call periods so that you have virtually no wait time. And I think that'll be a big change in the service level that's being offered.
What about file access, Pam? What's the
Yeah.
story there currently?
I mean, okay, so I talked to a file access
I just want to
manager.
say to the audience that, we can't come up with an opinion on what to do when workers retain us without seeing the file. They're anywhere from 300 to 3,000 pages long. It's like asking someone to be a Christian who's never read the Bible. So we need the file.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to an access manager who essentially is helping get file accesses that should have been taken care of. 30 to 45 days is not reasonable for us getting file access. I would say 50 to 75% of our files, we don't even have case managers assigned. And I've been told, there's this process now where you write a letter and then it goes into a queue of case managers that have to look at it. I'm testing the theory right now where I was told that if you leave the letter sit and there is no case manager assigned, it will be referred to access within 5 to 10 business days. I'm going on almost 3 weeks and it still hasn't been referred. So I'm testing this theory and I have a contact at the WSIB that's upper management that's kind of looking at it on the inside, trying to figure out the delays. But essentially, what I've been told, which I'm sure Harry you would say the same thing, is since the work disruption, everything got backlogged. So every department is backlogged. And I know staff was kind of bumped around to different areas after the work disruption to try and get rid of the backlog. But our major issue is there's definitely not enough case managers. The access is taking too long, and payment department. Like I've got Nell decisions from 2.5 weeks ago, and I'm calling every 2 days, and they're saying, yeah, it's still with payment. It's not being sent out yet. So we've got the clients on the other side saying, well, I got this decision, but I don't have a check yet. And I'm going, yeah, I mean, it's waiting in payment. I can't tell you when it's going out. So do you know if there's anything happening just with the overall backlog?
Largely, I think the backlog is kind of been dealt with, but I think what we're dealing with is resourcing shortages. So as I said, there's going to be more hiring for case managers. There will be for customer service reps. There will be for payment specialists. And access, it sounds like from what your experience is that I'm hearing from you, it's like there's addition, like it is also a lack of resource issue. And I'd say if you're waiting, 35, 40 days to get access, it's just not acceptable. The organization needs to do better.
Especially Harry, especially when it kills me that the WSIB has a surplus, and I'm estimating about 30 billion. They call it future benefits fund, but still it's a surplus regardless. And they're flush with money because they're giving billions back to employers. So the point is that the board, specifically Mr. Lang, has no excuse for having any resource problems or staffing shortfalls. And I think it's important that you're here telling injured workers, look, it's not the case manager taking their time. It's that they're backlogged, and it's upper management that's choosing not to hire sufficient staff and give them the proper training. I think that's one of my other big concerns with you, is that you had mentioned before when you were on, the big difference in the amount of training you received a few years ago when you were a young guy and being a case manager compared to today, what they're getting. Now, they can say, well, we're using automated systems. I don't buy that, because being a decision maker and making a proper, fair decision, you need a lot of training.
That was
And
that
that
was going to be
scares me
my
that they're
question.
not.
Is the board using AI now? Are they going to be using it more to actually make decisions?
There's limited use and some pilots that have been happening. They call it Meredith AI. The tool is not a decision maker, but more of an enhanced search engine. So as you mentioned, some files are huge, and it can take quite some time to go through that file page by page, trying to find the information you're looking for. So this should help speed that process up, and it may help in summarizing a case as well.
So you could ask
Um,
AI to a few questions about the case and it will come up with some answers.
It'll help summarize. I'd say from the experience that I've heard from some of the members I represent is that when they've been testing it, it's helpful, but they still need to double check everything and actually go through the file anyways. So it's
Yeah,
not
that's the
really.
concern, is
So it's not going to be making
that's the
decisions on
concern.
initial entitlement anytime soon.
No, they've
No.
had they've had that tool now for, oh God, it's been quite a number of years now, for e-adjudication is what they call it, and they used it a lot during the strike. Um, and that one is like you've got to hit all the immediates, right? Immediate accident, immediate report, immediate medical, and then it's auto allowed. But that's not an AI tool. That tool has been around for quite some time.
All right. Well, we've
What
been
about
on
AI and
for
medical
30 minutes.
decisions?
I see Paul's
Not,
still not at his destination.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think AI is being used to make decisions. Not at this time.
All right. Thank you very much,
Yeah, that
everyone.
because yeah.
And look forward to
Thanks,
seeing
everyone.
everyone next week, or actually 2 weeks from now. Thanks.
All
Thank
right.
you, everybody.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye now.